Hello, and welcome to the World Wanderers podcast. On this episode of the podcast, Ryan and I are going to be interviewing our friend from university, Carolyn McPherson. Carolyn has basically been living abroad for the last 4 years in various locations around the world. So she's agreed to share with us her adventures through living in Africa, South Korea, parts of Asia, including the Philippines, doing yoga teacher training in India, living and teaching yoga in Nicaragua, and now making a life for herself in the Dominican Republic. So it's pretty interesting to talk to other people who have traveled, but it's always really interesting to talk to people who have done something that's super different from what Ryan and I have done. And although we've traveled a lot, we actually haven't lived abroad. So it'd be super interesting to hear about Carolyn's experiences living in other countries. So without further ado, here is Carolyn. So basically, I guess we haven't really kept in touch since we graduated university 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. Do you want to kind of update us on your last 4 years? Because they've been pretty exciting.
Sure. So just like step by step of all the places I've lived in?
Yeah, and kind of like what you've been up to and what you've been doing.
Okay. So basically, I think like a week after the last exam of the last year of university, I went to Ghana and I had an internship there it was actually kind of from the university. So I went there for 3 or 4 months to do an internship, and I was doing something with microfinance, and we were doing cashless loans for farmers, like giving them seeds that they could plant, and the next season they had to repay back the seeds and things like that. And that was a nice experience. I was living in a village for 3 months, and then I traveled a little bit around Ghana, and I think I went to Togo and Benin also. And then I missed the graduation ceremony of university because I was already there.
You didn't miss much.
Yeah. It's kind of boring, I guess. It would be like the same,
a lot
kind
of
like
waiting.
The same of high school, but bigger and more boring and more people I didn't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, then while I was in Ghana, I got a job in Uganda. And so this was an internship from CEDA, the Canadian International Development Agency, which I think doesn't exist anymore. But do you know what that is? Or
no, I've never heard about it before.
Okay.
I've heard about it, but I don't know a ton about them.
So it's basically like a small percentage of all Canadian taxpayer money goes towards international development. And then this CEDA, which is the Canadian International Development Agency, is the government body which is in charge of basically spending this taxpayers' money in the different countries, developing countries. So they have various projects and partnerships in like most developing countries around the world. So I got an internship with them, which was a really great opportunity in Uganda. So then I came back, and in both of them, they paid for my flights, both the thing in Ghana and the thing in Uganda. So, of course, it didn't really make sense to go back to Canada. And I went back for 10 days, which was 5 days in Calgary to just quickly see my family, and then 5 days in Ottawa for a training session for the internship in Uganda. And then I went to Uganda, and that was a nice and different experience because there I was living in the capital city.
Cool.
So it was a 6-month internship, and then I had the option to extend to either 9 months or 1 year total if I wanted to. So that was a nice, like, kind of length of time and opportunity to have it longer or shorter. So basically within like a minute of being there, or like a few weeks of being there, I decided that I was going to do 1 full year because I really loved it. Like, I liked the work at first, and I loved living in the city. I loved the country. I loved being in Africa.
Yeah.
And what I was doing there was my job was called Value Addition Officer. So everything, like at first because we studied business in the university, obviously. So I was doing some things like kind of related to my degree at first. So Value Addition Officer. So I was working with farmers again. And sorry, there's some background noise. And
yeah, I don't know if you can hear anything, but like
it's like hailing
like
here.
Crazy here, so it's like.
Oh no, I can't hear that.
Okay.
But I'm like sitting in a stairwell, and every once in a while people walk by. Can you hear that?
It's not too bad. It just sounds like background noise.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, they'll hopefully leave soon because I just didn't want to talk right in the studio right now because there's a class going on, so that's why I'm just sitting in the stairway.
Yeah,
Anyways,
that's all good.
But just let me know if you can't hear anything or something.
Okay.
So then when I was in Uganda, so Value Addition Officer. So basically what that is in Uganda and in most developing countries, there's or most tropical countries, there's a lot of good opportunities for the farmers. Like the land is really, really fertile. They have good weather and everything. But basically the farmers, they're working really, really hard, but they're still living in poverty. And that's usually because there's like middlemen who are taking all of the money, and the farmers, they don't really have enough education, or they're not empowered to kind of take control of their own business. So it was not my project. Like, I just came in to work on this project, or to help work on this project for 6 months or 1 year. And so it was basically like, if we could find ways to further move the farmers along the value chain, then they could basically more or less do the same thing, like farming the same things, but kind of add value to what they were farming. And then they could earn more money from doing that. And then the middlemen earn less money, they earn more money, something like that. I mean, I can go into more or less details of anything later if you want me to.
And you said like in there, you liked the work at first. Did that change like as the year went on?
Yeah, like, okay, everything theoretically sounds really, really great, but realistically, I was basically just sitting in an office and no one actually cared if I did or did not do anything, because there was kind of like a disconnect, because I was paid upfront by the Canadian government, and then, or this program, whatever it was, and then they sent me there. And then I just showed up there, and the guys who I was working for, which were all local Ugandans, didn't really care either way if I worked or not, because they themselves weren't paying me. So I was just kind of like this foreigner sitting in their office, and they didn't really give that much in the way of like motivation to work, or like, it was an internship. So theoretically they should have been kind of like supporting and helping me work, because technically I'm not like experienced person or something, which I wasn't. So, but there wasn't really much in the way of support, or they just didn't really seem to care, like if I did stuff or didn't do stuff. So at first I was really motivated, and I thought, wow, this is great, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But then, first of all, everything there moves super, super slow, so it's hard to actually do anything. And then when I realized that no one really cared whether I did or did do anything, then it's kind of hard to, motivate yourself, I guess.
It seems like if you don't have like a bit of external motivation, it's really hard to maintain like internal motivation. I had a similar experience with my first job out of university, where it's like you kind of start to realize that, if you do good or if you do like kind of average, it doesn't really matter. People still think you're doing good, and you're like, oh, okay, then I can just do average.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, just the fact that like my money was coming from the different people who were the supervisors, it was kind of like a weird disconnect. But I mean, overall the experience was good. And I do think I made some small differences or help, hopefully, like, I helped them do some things, develop some things. And I definitely learned a lot. So overall, I mean, it was a really great experience.
Yeah.
Had you traveled out of Canada before going to Ghana right after university?
Yeah, I'd actually been to Ghana before. I went to Ghana during university.
Yeah,
so
I feel like I remember that.
I went on reading week, kind of just randomly, and that's actually how I got the internship in Ghana after, is I didn't really know like exactly how or why I got the idea to go on reading week, but because I was doing like an independent study course on microfinance. So there was one professor who was supervising me on this course, and all I had to do to get the 5 credits for the whole entire course was just write a paper. And I decided I wanted to go to Ghana to research for the paper, although really more like I just went for vacation actually on reading break. But anyways, so I went there, and then there was another professor in the Department of Development Studies or something, and he's from Ghana actually. And so then when he heard that I went there just by myself and supposedly did research on microfinance, then he was really interested. And then he's the one who offered me that internship right after graduation. And that was with 5 other U of C students. We were 6 U of C students who went. 2 of us were doing economic development. 2 of them were doing something related to women and gender studies, I think. And then 2 of them were either health or education, or I don't know. We had there was 6 of us, and we were 2 with 3 different kind of topics or something. All I know is mine was economic development.
Oh, that's
cool. Then I also went to Kenya in, I think in between third year and fourth year of university. And I also did 2 semesters abroad. So I did 1 semester abroad in Taiwan. And then I traveled to a few other Asian countries after the semester or during the semester. And then I also did 1 semester abroad in the Netherlands. And I also traveled to a lot of European countries then. And I also went to Europe twice when I was a teenager for dance trips. And that's all. before university.
So pretty like well traveled before.
Yeah, I mean, like I guess, like I definitely have a turning point of when my travel started, which is when, sorry, I'm just moving now. There's a lot of people. It's like a kind of awkward time because there's an office right beside the yoga studio and everybody's leaving from work right now. Anyways, my like turning point of travel was when I went to Taiwan, because that was my first semester abroad. That was in between second and third year, and that was like my first extended amount of time being away from home, my first really independent time. And there I met a lot of really cool people who had done a lot of other traveling. And then so after that was when I decided, okay, like I love traveling. You know, I got the travel bug during that trip actually. So that was like my first trip. And then basically like since that semester up until now, I never really spent like a long time in Calgary. I just kind of finished university, including one more semester abroad. And then, continued.
So when you went like after university, when you went to Ghana, were you planning like to be back in Canada after that? Or was in your mind at that time, was it like always going to be like just finding new opportunities to go different places?
Yeah, once I started traveling, I thought I just wanted to keep doing it forever. Like I didn't know exactly what I would do or where I would go, but I just felt like, wow, there's so much of the world that I want to see. And I've already seen Canada for about 20 years. So I love Canada. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm so happy to be from Canada, and especially Alberta is a really beautiful place. But I don't know, now I just have a much bigger desire to explore new places and always be changing and living in new places.
Yeah, that's super cool. And then, so you never really had that like, okay, I've been working in this sort of like business related job related to my degree. Like I should go home and kind of like get a job related to that and kind of climb the corporate ladder.
No, and I don't think I could do it now.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's like, okay, it's what we said, like, it's actually like 4.5 years since we graduated, right? Or at least since I graduated. The same of you guys, right? Like 2011, April 2011, April or May, whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It would be really hard for me to have like a real job in Canada now, I think.
Yeah, that's cool. So we went like right after we graduated and kind of just like roamed around for 6 months. And then it kind of just like, I don't know, I like never really considered the idea of just not having to go home. I was kind of always trying to like, oh, this is some break I can have, but then I've got to go back and get like a real job. So that's what we did. We like traveled for 6 months, came home, got like career-y jobs. And then both just like,
we're both just like, this is so awful.
Yeah, I feel like once you travel and have that like experience of really like leading kind of like a self-directed life and like seeing new things and feeling like way more alive, then coming back and like doing the exact same thing every day, driving to work, being in an office, it becomes like just kind of unbearable, like because you know there's something else out there.
Yeah.
And then so from Africa, did you go to South Korea after that?
Yeah, almost. Well, then after so I was going to do 12 months, 1 year in Uganda, but then I got another really great opportunity because I also do highland dancing.
Yeah.
Ever since I was 7 years old, I've been doing this Scottish dancing. So there's a really big and famous show in Scotland every year in August. And basically every year they invite highland dancers from a different country to come. So it's more or less every 4 years they would invite Canadian dancers to come. And so that was 2012. Yeah, 2012, they invited Canadian dancers. So I applied and I got accepted to go dance there, which is like the dream for every highland dancers. For 1 month, you perform every night for 1 month, every night in front of 10,000 people for 1 month.
Wow.
It's like huge show. And so the whole month of August. So then I decided to only do 9 months of the internship instead of 1 year because I got this opportunity. So then after the internship was finished, the 9 months, I still had like 1 month or something before this show started. So I traveled to Kenya and Rwanda and Tanzania. And then I went to Europe and I did this show for 1 month. And then I traveled to a few other countries in Europe to visit some other friends. And then I went back to Canada and I had no money. So like, no money. Luckily, I had a plane ticket paid for home again from my work because the job that I had in Uganda and in Ghana, they were both internships. So they paid like a monthly stipend, which was meant to cover your expenses, but it's not like to save money or anything. Yeah. So I saved a little bit that could allow me to travel for a couple months afterward, which is great. But I was coming back with like no money.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh, okay, now what? Because now I'm in Canada and I have nothing to do. do and I have no money.
Yeah.
So I actually, at that point, I really wanted to go to South America or a Latin country, South or Central America or Caribbean. But I didn't speak Spanish and I had no money. And so I kind of was like looking for jobs or something to do, but I couldn't find anything. Like without speaking Spanish, it's basically impossible to get a job there. I mean, you could maybe try to volunteer or teach English, but it's not like really that. I didn't really find any opportunities.
It's not very lucrative either.
Yeah. So then when everybody who's traveled has heard or knows that teaching English in Asia, specifically a few countries, is like a very good thing to do if you want to still live abroad but earn money. Mm-hmm. So it never was like my dream job, but I thought, okay, well, they pay for everything, including the plane ticket to bring me there. So I can just do that for 1 year. And then I had the idea, like, while I'm there, I can start learning Spanish.
In Korea.
And then hopefully I can save a lot of money so that even if I have like money saved and just a basic of Spanish, then after that I could go to Latin America and then hopefully start there. Oh, because one of the reasons I guess why I was so attracted to Latin America was because when I was in Africa, I was in Uganda, I started doing salsa dancing and just became addicted to it. And to this day, that's still like my big addiction.
Yeah.
So then I looked online and in like 5 minutes I had a job to teach English in Korea because did you guys do that before or no?
No, we thought about teaching English in China, and when we moved here we were like, oh, we're going to live in Canmore for a summer and then go to Asia to try to teach English. And then it's kind of just like it's been like a year.
We're just like, we actually really like Canmore.
Yeah. Oh, that's good also.
Yeah.
But I'd still really like to do that. It's still like on my list of things that I think would be cool to do.
Yeah. I should introduce you to my sister because she's also traveled a lot and I'm sure she's looking, well, I don't know if she's looking for friends in Canmore. I think she already has a lot of friends. Anyways, maybe you guys are neighbors or something.
Maybe.
May well be.
Yeah. Anyways, we look alike, so maybe you'll see her someday and you'll think she's me.
I'll look her at the yoga studio.
No, I don't think she'll be there.
You haven't got her hooked yet?
No. If you ever go kayaking, whitewater kayaking, definitely you'll see her there. That's her passion.
Okay, cool. I don't know if I'll be whitewater kayaking, but
yeah,
maybe.
So then I got the job in Korea, which was like super, super, super easy to get a job. Like the interview is like you just search online, and I had an interview within 5 minutes, and then in the interview they asked me if I like Korean food, and I said I think so, and then they said, okay, so when is the soonest you can come here? And that was it, basically. So I said, okay, I can come anytime. So I just had to get my visa, which was a little bit complicated, but eventually possible, obviously. And then I went to Korea, so I was there like 2012 October 2012 or November, something like that. I don't know, October, November 2012 until October 2013. And that was good. I mean, it wasn't my favorite country to live in or my favorite working experience, but basically I went there with the goal to save $10,000 and I did it. So I had, like a nice life when I was there. I went on a few vacations within the year that I was there. I met a lot of people. I danced a lot. And then I saved all the money that I wanted to. And I also started learning Spanish a little bit, just cool. With Pimsleur, this like online or podcast type thing. And then after that,
I've never heard of Pimsleur before.
Do you know Rosetta Stone?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's the same concept, I think. And it's really good, actually. Someone gave it to me for free, and it's like 90, 30-minute lessons to learn languages. And if I'm learning a new language, which maybe soon I will now that I'm pretty fluent in Spanish, I would do Pimsleur again. Like, it's really good for kind of a beginner class that you can do by yourself.
Oh, that's cool.
What was it like when you first got to Korea, and like you'd had this like recent experience living in Africa? Were you kind of like missing Africa at all, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so much. And they're so opposite. Like, even if you could have a spectrum, Korea could be on one end, Africa could be on the other, and Canada could be somewhere in the middle, I think. But Korea and Africa, to me, just seems so opposite. And I loved Africa. Like, for a long time before going to Africa, well, I say Africa, I went to 7 countries. I lived in 2 and I traveled to a few others. And I don't know, I should be careful saying that for is Africa, of course, because it's a whole continent. But from my experience in sub-Saharan Africa in 7 countries, I loved it. And before going there for many years, I had the idea that I wanted to live somewhere in sub-Saharan Africa. So it was kind of like a dream. And, I loved everything about being there. And then when I went to Korea, I never really had a desire to go there. I was just going there to make money. But of course, I went with an open mind. And like in general, it was fine. But yeah, it was kind of like, I actually wrote a blog entry about it, which you guys could read if you want, because it was really cool or funny or interesting, because in Uganda, they have this phrase called poli poli, which means like slow, slow. And it's actually a Swahili phrase. So it's like if you're on, the motorbike taxi, they're going really crazy. So you're always saying like poli poli. Or that's just like if they see like a white person rushing around, because like they always think that the white people are in a rush, and they'll be like poli poli. It's just kind of like relax, like chill out, like what's the hurry? But then in Korea, they have a phrase called pali pali, which is like sounds almost the same, but it means like hurry up, go faster. And so you always heard the students saying that, like they'd be writing something and they'd be like pali pali, and they're like always telling each other to go faster. And to me, that was just so amazing. Like these two phrases that almost sound exactly the same, but like two completely different languages and two completely different meanings. And it basically to me like summed up kind of the culture of the two. Like in Africa, everything in Uganda, let's say specifically where I was in Uganda, everything's like kind of laid back, and when you go to work in the morning, you spend like 30 minutes or 1 hour just greeting your coworkers and drinking tea together and like asking how your evening was. And then in Korea, it's like my boss didn't ask me once like if I was happy. And just in general, the people there are like very, competitive and more individualistic and stuff like that. So, I mean, personally, I liked the culture and my experience more in Uganda than I did in Korea. But of course, I mean, Korea is a very developed country, and, being organized and being competitive has its advantages, clearly.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're very, very, very different countries. And there was definitely some sort of like little culture shock from going to one to the other.
Mm-hmm.
I know you had like different experiences in the different countries, but would you say Uganda was like your favorite place that you visited in Africa?
In Africa?
Yeah.
Yeah, in Africa, definitely, because I was there for the longest time.
So you got to know it a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, what was teaching English like day to day? Did you find it kind of like becoming monotonous, or was it fun?
It was pretty hard. Like my morning class was pre-kindergartens. They were like 3 or 4 years old. And their parents had such high expectations for them. And like when we were 3 or 4 years old, we didn't go to school. And these 3 and 4 year olds were expected to read English and Korean by the time they were 3. It's just really crazy. And they went to school for 5 hours a day with a teacher who didn't even speak the same language as them. Like imagine the first day of class when I was there, I told them to sit down and they looked at me like they have no idea what I'm saying. But it is amazing because after 1 year they could speak English. And it's not because I'm a good English teacher, because I don't think I really was. It's just because they're little kids and they can learn like really, really fast if they're immersed into it. So that's like the point of it. But I mean, it wasn't easy for sure. Like the working hours are quite long, and the work environment, like I said, they're quite, like strict and competitive, and they really want you always working hard and stuff. But I mean, there were other foreign teachers there, like some other Canadian girls the same age as me, and we all got along really, really well. And I mean, in general, it's quite an easy way to make money because they pay for everything. Like they gave me the apartment, they paid for the airplane ticket, and I had lunch at school every day. So like, it's a good way to save a lot of money. So
yeah, for sure.
Like, I know a lot of people who've taught English in Korea and then have returned again because, they're like, wow, I don't know any other way to make money like so good like this. I personally don't think I would ever do it again, just because now I have the kind of skill of teaching yoga that I could do in other countries, which I like, which I love, whereas teaching English I didn't like, I just did it to make money. But I would recommend it to almost anybody if you want to have the experience of living abroad while being able to make money.
Yeah, it sounds like a good way to make some quick money and learn something new, which is cool. Yeah. And so from Korea, you went to the Philippines?
Yeah. So then I found on the same SIDA, the one that I had the job in Uganda, I was like, always kind of keeping an eye on their website. And then I saw they had another job posting for in the Philippines and a few countries. And so I applied for the one in the Philippines, and I got it. And it was kind of cool because I finished work on a Friday evening or Friday afternoon in Korea, and then the very following Monday I started work in the Philippines. So I think on Saturday I just flew over there, and it was a kind of similar-ish to what I was doing in Africa, except this time I was working with people with disabilities, helping them to start small businesses. So they were starting like some soap making business, and they were building school desks and, just like little businesses like this. And again, I had an amazing experience living in the Philippines. Like I was dancing a ton there, and I was practicing yoga a lot, and I was doing all the traveling a lot. My sister came to visit me, and my mom came to visit me for the first time. And so everything was great there, but the work was also a little bit boring, like being in the office all the time and not really having anyone care or monitor what I did. So then after that point of being in the Philippines, I was like, okay, what to do next? Because I know I still want to continue living abroad, but I don't really want to sit in an office all the time anymore. Oh, and I don't know if you know or if I should mention it, but like when I was in Uganda, I developed my kind of dream or my business idea that I want to do in a few years, which is to start a dance and yoga eco resort.
Cool.
Did you know something about this, or should I say something about it?
We'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, so I always even when I was in university, I was always kind of interested in starting something of my own, whether it was a, NGO or business or something, but I didn't really know what. And when I was in Africa, I got this idea, when I was in Uganda, I got this idea, which I've had ever since, and I'm still hoping to do. And so, it's evolved a little bit over time, but basically what I want to do is I want to buy land in the countryside somewhere. I'm not sure yet if it will be in the Caribbean or Africa. And then build a small eco resort, so everything, natural and eco. And then, but basically instead of just normal tourists coming, I will have group retreats kind of. So a yoga retreat or a dance retreat would be my two main things. So for example, dance was with my main idea, but now I've expanded it to yoga. So for example, my dance group in Canada, they could come, say 15 or 20 of them, mostly teenage girls mostly. And then they could come to my place. They would stay there for 1 or 2 weeks. And then while they're there, they could practice their own style of dance. They could also learn the local styles of dance, the local music. They could also have some experiences of going out and volunteering in the community. And then they could also have, typical vacation, like going to the pool or the beach and doing what other tourist things there are in that country, which I choose to have it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I can tell you more details later if you want. But basically, since I've had that idea, I've also been thinking, okay, what relevant jobs can I have that can give me good experience to lead me more towards my dream or my business plan. So I thought it would be good for me to work or volunteer on various eco resorts to get ideas about it. But I didn't really want to work as, a receptionist or something random in an eco resort. So then I thought, okay, then I could get my yoga teacher certification, and then I could find jobs teaching yoga in different places, and then that would be a cool job. But then it could also get me experience working on eco resorts. Yeah. And then also in that time, my yoga practice was becoming a lot stronger, and I don't even know, I don't remember when the idea popped in my head to go to India to do my teacher training, but at some point it did. And then once the idea was there, I just decided to do it. So basically after I did 6 months internship in the Philippines, it was the same thing. I could extend for 1 year if I wanted to, but at that point I was kind of finished with that.
Yeah,
I felt finished. So then I had a few 1 month traveling around to some other Asian countries. I think I went to Singapore and Indonesia first, and then I went to India, and so I stayed there for 2 months. I did my 1 month yoga teacher training, probably a similar program to you, although mine was just hatha yoga.
Yeah.
And then I had 1 month traveling around India, and then I had about 1 or 1.5 more months traveling around Asia. And then in the meantime, I found kind of my dream job, which was teaching yoga on an eco resort in Nicaragua, because it was really my dream job, because as I told you, I had been dying to go somewhere in Latin America. So I was basically going to go anywhere I could in Latin America, any Spanish speaking country actually, because I wanted to learn Spanish. So basically any Spanish speaking country I would consider going. And then I specifically wanted to teach yoga on an eco resort. So I found this thing on a website called Workaway. Have you guys heard of it?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was actually an exchange type thing. So the deal was, in exchange for me teaching 1 yoga class every morning at their eco resort, I would stay there for free and eat 3 meals a day for free. So that was great. So I thought, wow, I'm going to teach one yoga class every day. I can get experience as a new yoga teacher. I can learn or improve my Spanish, and I can have the experience working on the eco resort. So it was like 100% perfect for me, like my exact dream come true.
Yeah.
And if I would have chosen any country to go to in Latin America, a Spanish speaking country, I wouldn't have chosen Nicaragua for sure. But I'm so happy that I had the opportunity to go there, and I actually loved the country. And then I went to Costa Rica for a couple weeks after with my sister, just for a Christmas vacation. And then finally, now I'm here in the Dominican Republic. And so this is the first country that I came to just because I wanted to without a job. So all the other countries that I went to, I had some specific reason to go there or like a job lined up beforehand, which is why I went to those countries. But finally, I decided, okay, I want to try to just go to a country that I want to go to, like choose one country that I really want to go to, and then see if I can just go there with nothing and see if I can make it work, like with no job. So yeah. I was deciding, after having the experience on the eco resort, which was really great, I decided that I wanted to live in a city again for some time. So the 3 cities I was choosing between were either Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, or Buenos Aires in Argentina, or Medellin in Colombia. And all of those coincide with the dances that I like. So I either wanted, because of bachata and merengue here, or because of tango in Argentina, or because of salsa in Colombia. Yeah. So finally, here for a few reasons. Number one, from Costa Rica to here, the flight was the cheapest. And number two, my grandparents, they have a timeshare in the Dominican Republic, so they come here every year for 2 weeks. So I knew that I'd have the opportunity to see them here. And number three, when I was in Korea, I had a really good friend who was Dominican. And so he still, to this moment, he still lives and works in Korea. But at that time, he was in Dominican Republic, so it was Christmas vacation. So I got to see him and meet his family. And then I actually he was the one who arranged everything with the movie. I don't know if you saw that I was acting in the movie when I first came here.
Yeah, I did see that. I was like, that's so random. How did you get to do that?
Yeah, so that was my friend who I met in Korea, who's actually a professional baseball player and also is a writer of movies. And so he, and I met him at the salsa club in Korea. So he wrote a movie and was filming it and needed a white person to be in it. So he just asked me and I accepted.
That's so cool.
It was really a cool experience, and they're still editing it. So I haven't seen anything, but hopefully they finish it soon.
Yeah, cool. You'll have to post it on Facebook so that everyone can go see it.
Yeah. If they ever finish it, I hope they do. So, basically, that's it. And also one of the other reasons why I decided to come to this country is because for a lot of reasons for my own eco resort idea, I think Dominican Republic could really be a perfect country. So now at the moment where I'm at is I decided to live in the capital city, Santo Domingo, for between 1 and 2 years, if I could, which I can now that I know I have a job. So now I can stay here. So stay here between 1 and 2 years. And then during that time, just get to know more about the country and decide whether I want to have my eco resort here in this country, not in the city, of course, but somewhere in the country. Or if I don't feel like it in this country, then to look for a new country. But like now I'm kind of feeling ready to start my eco resort. Like the last couple of years I wasn't. I had this idea like very present in my mind, but not at the front of my mind because I knew I wanted to travel more and have more experiences. And I knew that once I started my dream to build my business, I couldn't really travel a lot. But now I'm kind of feeling like, okay, I feel like I want to settle down in one place. I feel like I really want to start building this dream that I've had for a long time. And so I'm thinking of Dominican Republic, but I'm still not 100% sure.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's cool because it seems like you've been to like all these places around the world that like, you know, it's like, it kind of seems like, oh, one place, Korea, Africa, Central America, that like don't really seem logically connected, but like your plan and your vision is kind of like a logically connected sequence leading you all around the world.
Mm-hmm. It's super cool.
So with the eco resort, what's like, so are you thinking you want to start that within like a year, or what's kind of changed to make you think you want to do that sooner?
No, it's not. Nothing changed to make me want to do it sooner. I always thought about this. Like when I first had the idea, I thought, okay, I'll wait 3 to 5 years and then I'll start it. So that's the time. Like now I'm 25. Well, I'm almost turning 25 next month. And to me, I don't know, 25 or 26 or 27 seems like a good age to kind of, to me, this is like what you guys said about like going back and starting your career or getting in a career path. This is for me. Like this is what I see to be my career, like my real job. Like I realize that what I'm doing right now, okay, it could be sustainable. Like I could do it for a long time because I'm earning enough money to survive, but it's really not like a very like adult thing or like normal. It's not normal. Not that that's a bad thing. Not that I need to have a real job, but I do think like when you're young in your 20s, this whole thing of living here for 6 months, living there for 1 year is really cool and really rewarding. But like long term, I think it's better for me at least to have like something to show, like really do something real and something good. So this is kind of like, you could say, my career. And now it's like I feel almost time to start my career, which is building my own business, which is my dream, which is also the place where I want to live. It's my dream, like to live out in the countryside somewhere surrounded by nature and have kind of a lot of cool people coming to me and stuff like that. So no, it's not like something changed. It's just that I always thought that within a few years I would be ready. And now I'm kind of feeling like ready, like it's time.
That's cool. That's exciting that you've like kind of come that far and that you're kind of getting to that place where you're almost ready.
Mm-hmm.
What's it been like being down in the Dominican Republic, like setting up a whole brand new life? Because you probably did you have to get a visa as a Canadian citizen to work and live down there?
No,
you can just work.
Allegedly.
So Canadians can come for 30 days without anything, without a visa, just 30 days. So of course I just came without anything for 30 days. And then I went to the immigration office and I told them that I don't have a job, but I want to work here for maybe 1 year. What can I do? And they said, oh, no problem. You can stay here as long as you want. And then when you leave the country, you just pay a tax. And they gave me a printed out brochure. And then it's like, if you're between 3 months and 6 months over your stay, you pay this much. If you're between 6 months and 9 months, you pay this much, all the way up to 7 years. So it seems like it's
That's
not
awesome.
a problem to just stay here, like technically illegally, which is over my 30 days, which is legal. It seems like that's not a problem considering they gave me like a printed out brochure of how much I would have to pay when I finally decide to leave. But right now, I don't know if it's big in international news, but there's like a lot of changes happening with immigration right now to do with the Haitians, because there's a ton of illegal immigrants from Haiti who are here in the Dominican Republic now. So they're making a lot of changes of the rules. So a lot of people have warned me, like, you should be careful because the rules might affect me, because how can they can't just make one rule specific for Haitians. It has to be like for all foreigners should follow the same rule. I mean, technically it should be like that. So I have to investigate that again, maybe. But for the moment, I'm under the assumption, or how I understand is that I can stay here for basically as long as I want, and then when I leave I just have to pay a tax, which is a few $100s.
Yeah, that's not too bad then.
So that was fine. And so like when I came here, I was working in the movie, which was an amazingly cool experience. I was doing that for almost 1 month, and then after that, but I was out in the countryside somewhere, and then after that I finally came to the capital city, which is where I knew I wanted to live. And then I was a little bit slow at first getting a job because I was just having fun, like dancing and hanging out and doing fun things that you do when you first come to a country. And then finally my money was almost running out. So I said, okay, now it's more serious. I should try to get a job. So then I just went to the yoga studios and I introduced myself. And then, and also the thing that was holding me back was I knew that I would have to teach in Spanish. So by that point, I could speak Spanish, like not perfectly, but more or less. But I had only been teaching English because in Nicaragua, it was on a resort. So I taught in English.
Yeah.
I taught yoga in English. So then I was kind of like trying to improve my Spanish a little bit so I could feel more confident to teach yoga in Spanish. So then finally, there's like 2 big yoga studios here in the city, and then a few kind of smaller or more like individual people who do yoga classes. Mm-hmm. So I went to both of the 2 big yoga studios, and both of them offered me a trial class. So like I taught a class for the owners and the other teachers, and then one of them gave me classes, and they have like exclusivity, like the teachers cannot teach at both studios. So the one gave me classes, which is great. And it was really slow. Like I would at first starting to teach like 2 classes a week or 3 classes a week, and then like starting to sub a little bit more for people. And even now I have maybe like 4 or 5 of my own regular classes a week, which technically is not really enough to live off of. Yeah. But then I try to sub whenever I can. And I also started my own classes because I have a rooftop terrace. So I started teaching classes twice a week on my rooftop terrace, and these are going really well. I have like a nice group of students who come regularly. And so it's like I'm kind of at this moment like just breaking even. Yeah. The previous months I was spending more than I earned every month. But hopefully soon it'll be changing to the opposite, and I'll be earning more than I spend, hopefully. So it's kind of like I just finished 6 months here. So I kind of like, okay, 6 months, and hopefully now is like the turning point. And I think of the first 6 months as like my investment kind of my time and my savings, like to live.
Yeah.
And hopefully now, because like I realize sometimes I'm like, oh, wow, this sucks, I'm not teaching a lot. But I realize like I'm actually so grateful for the opportunities that I've had, because number one, I'm teaching in a foreign language, which I don't even speak fluently. So that, first of all, for me to be able to do that is quite good, I think.
Definitely.
A pat on the back.
Yeah.
Also, like if I was teaching in Calgary or a country where yoga is much more popular, I don't think I would have so many classes in the studio, because there's so many yoga teachers in Calgary and Canada who have a lot of experience. So I don't know if you feel this. This is my idea anyways. Mm-hmm. So that I have the idea that if you just come back like fresh from a teacher training, it would be quite hard to have your own classes in a studio. Like to have, 6 classes a week in the studio could be almost impossible as a new yoga teacher. Is that true? Or have you found it easy to get classes?
It's like okay for subbing. It's like, like I know the owner of the studio in Canmore, and like we're like tight, but he's not going to offer me a job there because he's got a bunch of really good yoga teachers already. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a fair thing that you just said.
Yeah. And even that's something similar here. Like when I first came, they couldn't just take the classes away from the other teachers and give it to me, obviously. Like they've been teachers who are Dominican, who have been there for years teaching. So when this foreigner out of nowhere just comes and says, hey, I want to teach here, like they can't just all of a sudden take away classes from the others, of course. So it's quite gradual. But then finally, like as the students kind of got to know me, and then some people liked my classes. And so whenever someone complimented me on a class, I said, if you like the class, could you please tell the owner of the studio that you like the class? Because I thought that if people were like giving him good feedback about my classes, then I would hopefully have more classes on the schedule. So I just started out subbing a lot. And then I had like one other teacher was really nice, and he gave me one of his classes. That was just once a week, but that was really nice of him. And then, but it's also really cool because I've started teaching a lot of other types of yoga. Like I did my teacher training in Hatha yoga, which is just like the most basic traditional yoga from India. Yeah. And then when I was in Nicaragua, I was just teaching Hatha yoga. And that was also like kind of strange because I didn't have any opportunities to go to other yoga classes. So that was kind of a strange experience, like being a brand new yoga teacher and just being I was literally on a small island for 3 months with almost no other yoga teachers there. Yeah. And so I kind of felt like really after 3 months, I felt like really kind of unmotivated. Like, wow, I just want to take yoga classes, like go to some other teachers and get new kind of ideas and stuff. Yeah. So that was really cool. In Costa Rica, I went to a lot of classes, but here it's great also because I teach in studio. So I get to go to all the classes I want for free and to see all the other teachers. So that's really nice to always I spend a lot of time in the studio, even when I'm not teaching, like attending other classes. But now I've been teaching. The first one I learned after here, the first yoga I learned after Hatha was I learned to teach vinyasa yoga. So I've been subbing some vinyasa classes. I have my own yin yoga classes. So that's like the really like slow holding the poses for like 5 minutes. I've been teaching yin yoga classes. I've been teaching kids yoga classes. Cool. I've been teaching prenatal yoga classes. And now I just started with hot yoga, like the Bikram series. So it's like, also, this is amazing because first of all, I think in the places where yoga is more developed and where there's more certified yoga teachers, they would never really let someone who just has a Hatha certificate teach a hot yoga or a prenatal yoga class because you're supposed to have like a special certificate for each one. But here it's like there's not a lot of certified yoga teachers. And yoga is like growing, but there's still not that many teachers. So they're just like, okay, you're a yoga teacher. So why don't you teach hot yoga? Why don't you teach prenatal yoga? So it's also been kind of like a good opportunity for me to learn a lot. And like I've studied a lot by myself, of course. And I think that's an opportunity that I might not have got, at least not so quickly, had I been in a country where yoga is more developed and more popular. So that's also something I'm really grateful for and which is really cool.
Yeah, totally. Like here, I went to go get on the sub list for like one of the fitness studios that's like got a gym and stuff. And they're like, oh, your first aid's not up to date. Like we can't put you on the list. Yeah. And so it's like now I have to update my first aid, which is fine. I'm happy to do it. But it's definitely like that. Like if you don't have all the qualifications that they want, they just won't do it here, which is like we have so many regulations in Canada that Dominican probably doesn't have. Yeah.
So maybe has, but don't apply. So so now that you've been like living in Latin America, has it lived up to your dream, like from years ago when you were like, oh, Latin America, so exotic and fantastic?
No. Okay, so the main reason I wanted to come here was to dance. Like, I'm obsessed with salsa and bachata. That's the main reason why I wanted to go to Latin America, and one of the main reasons why I chose this country specifically. And I'm so bored by the dancing here. First of all, in general, Dominicans don't dance salsa. Bachata and merengue are the dances that they dance here, and reggaeton and some other folkloric dances. But basically, you'll see as many Calgarians dancing salsa as you would see Dominicans who are dancing salsa. And the Dominicans who dance salsa like go to a salsa school and learn the steps. So it's not like my dream where like everybody on the street is just dancing salsa 24/7. That's true with bachata. Like bachata is kind of like the Dominican dance, and here you just walk on the street and you're always hearing the bachata music, you're always seeing people dance. And I love the two dances equally, like between salsa and bachata, I love them both. But here also the style how they dance bachata is really different. And in all the other countries where I've lived, I've always danced salsa. And it's always like such cool people I meet. Like usually the friends who I had in most of the countries I've lived in were friends I knew from salsa dancing, because that was like my big hobby. And it's totally in the other countries, and even in Calgary, I've been out salsa dancing before. And it's totally okay and normal for you to just go by yourself, because the people are there to dance. So you don't need to drink a lot, or you don't need to go with a group of friends. You just go there and you dance, and you're like, every dance you switch partners, and it's really cool. But here is like, it's like every single club that exists just plays salsa and bachata music. So it's like, it's really weird for you to go by yourself. It's like everybody just goes with their group of friends, and they basically dance among their group of friends, like how we would if we went to a club in Canada.
Yeah.
We would mostly just dance, go with our group of friends and dance within a group of friends. So that's kind of what they do here, but then they're dancing salsa and bachata, but within their group of friends. So like, if I, one person, just want to go, it's like weird for me to go and then just try to dance with people who are there with their friends. And then also, or the guys who are willing to dance with a single white girl who's just there wanting to dance are actually looking for something else other than dancing. And within like 10 seconds of dancing, they're asking me if I have a boyfriend and stuff like that. So like over time, I found some good places to dance, and I dance a lot with like people the age of my grandparents who have like more like kind of gentlemanly style of dancing than the younger generation. And like the school that teaches salsa here, I really, really love. And the owner's from Cuba, actually. And so he teaches like Cuban style salsa here in Dominican. So I go there every Friday. And that's always like my big night of dancing that I look forward to the most. And then there's like a few other places that I found that have like decent to dance salsa and bachata and, some live music and stuff. But like considering one of the main reasons I came here was to dance, it's definitely not living up to my expectations for dancing. And it's kind of ironic because when I was living in Asia, I would be dancing salsa like 5 or 6 nights a week, like almost every night I went out dancing. And here is like maybe twice a week. It's like on the weekends I go out, but maybe it's also like kind of my priorities are changing a little bit, and now I'm more focused on like yoga and my job, I guess. So that could be it also, but I mean, I love living here. Like, I love the culture and everything, but it is kind of like funny or disappointing a little bit is that I came here with such big expectations for the dancing.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. It's funny how those things work out. Has it been hard living there? And I guess all your travels you've done is like just on your own. Has it been difficult as like a young white female?
No, I don't think it's been difficult in any way, but what do you mean by difficult?
I guess like, have you had any problems, or like, has it been like scary for you at times to be like, oh, I wish I had like a friend here or anything like that?
I always have lots of friends here.
Yeah, you're pretty personable. You always make friends quickly, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I find it really easy to make friends when you're living abroad. And like you said, being a white person, like every guy, okay, not in Asia as much, but in Africa and Latin America, basically every guy wants to be my boyfriend within like 2 seconds. So those are usually not the guys I end up being friends with, of course. But I don't know, it's somehow also interesting. And now when I go back to Canada and people just ignore me on the street, I'm like, I feel confused, because here I feel like I'm a celebrity, and like everybody walk up and everyone's like, hey, beautiful, hey, blonde person, hey, white-skinned person. I'm sure you had the same experiences. Well, maybe not. It's different. When I walk with a guy, I don't have it as much, of course. But
I had it more when I went to South America with a girlfriend than when I went with Ryan.
Yeah.
It was like every guys would like follow us around, whereas like Ryan
and then in Asia it's kind of the opposite. It's like it's more like the white guys and the Asian girls.
Yeah.
In stereotypically. Whereas Africa and Latin America, it's usually like the black guys or the Latino guys with the white girls. It's funny how it's the opposite.
Yeah, it is funny.
So if you were talking to someone who hadn't traveled before and was wanting to move to a new city in a foreign country all by themselves, like how would you recommend like making new friends and building a community when you're new to a city by yourself in a different country?
Yeah. Well, I think basically if you have hobbies, that could be the best thing. Because for me, almost all the friends I've met have been with my hobbies. So, for example, in the other countries, like I said, a lot of my friends have been with salsa dancing. So, like, I've been obsessed with salsa dancing. So I'll look on the internet before I go to a new city, whether I'm going there for one night or 1 year. Before I go to the country, I always look, okay, like, where's the salsa night? And then I'll go there by myself, and then I'll just meet people. So, like, for example, when I went to the Philippines, my first weekend there, and same with Korea and same with every country, my first weekend there, I went out salsa dancing. And then usually in those countries, like the Asian countries where salsa is not huge, it's kind of like a small community and they know everybody. So if they see a white person who they've never seen before dancing salsa, everybody's going to be like, oh, who are you? Like, are you just here for a visit? And I say, no, I'm living here. And then they're nice and they become my friends. But that's like, for example, for me, it was salsa dancing. Or also I've been in like other kind of groups of yoga, of course. I also had been training capoeira in the Philippines and Korea. And like in Uganda, I was part of a running group and a mountain biking group. So it's just like whatever, this is my recommendation, I think, is like whatever hobbies you have, and hopefully you have hobbies. If you don't, then you're maybe boring and you should try to find some hobbies. But if you have any hobbies, then just try to find your hobbies in that country. And if you're living in like a capital city or a big city, you'll be able to find anything all around the world. This is what I've realized, is it's amazing. Living in cities, you can find anything that you wouldn't expect to necessarily find in that country. Mm-hmm. But so just like try to find your hobbies, and then usually these are the people who you can meet, and they're the like-minded people anyways. Like, for example, here, most of my friends are other yoga teachers, like my coworkers, and they're the other ones who have, similar mindset to me, eat similar foods, live their life in a similar way. So I wouldn't just like go to a bar and try to meet Dominicans there, because these Dominicans would be very, very different from me, like how I am right now in my current mindset. Mm-hmm. When I was young, like, for example, when I went to Taiwan, which I was 18 at the time in university, I think I met most of my friends at the bar. And back then that would have been fine. But for example, now I don't drink. I've been like 4 years. Basically, I stopped drinking alcohol in Uganda, so almost one of my first trips. So for me, of course, I would never just go to a bar and try to meet friends. I guess if that's your hobby, like for some people that can be their hobby. It's like,
that might be
then sure, they could do that and they could meet their other drinking friends. And that was my life too when I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
So, but to summarize, that would be my recommendation, is to try to find your hobbies and then meet the people, because those are the people who you'd want to hang out with anyways. Because then instead of saying like, okay, what should we do? It's like, okay, hey, let's go dancing salsa tonight, or hey, let's go mountain biking this weekend or something.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like when you were like living in Ghana and Uganda, did you kind of have a moment where you weren't really building that community outside, and then you were like, oh, I really should be getting out and doing more stuff and building that community? Or has it been something you've done kind of your whole experience traveling?
Yeah, I've always been quite, I guess, proactive with doing my hobbies and meeting people and stuff.
Okay, that's cool. I think for me, that's something I've like, the last time I went to Czech Republic and Hungary and kind of Central Europe in the early spring, I guess you could call it.
It was winter.
Yeah, like February.
Okay.
And I was like, actually like trying to meet people and like meeting people who, I'm really into Bitcoin. So I was like, met a couple people who were like interested in Bitcoin, but definitely before, like a few years ago, I think I felt like too scared and nervous to like really go out and make new friends in new places.
Mm.
Yeah, I think we too saw this shift in between the first time we traveled and the second time we traveled, because the first time we traveled was straight out of university. So it's like we met a lot of people through like pub crawls at the hostel or like all you can drink nights. And then the second time around, we're not like, we didn't go to South America to have this like big party trip. So then it's like being in hostels, but still finding people to connect with that were like more like-minded to us, and figuring out those ways to do that while you're traveling. It's definitely easier to meet people in hostels if you're just like, yeah, we're like going to go to the bar tonight and get drunk, but you don't make the same connections, especially if that's not your mindset.
But of course, it's also different because I haven't actually really traveled that much. Like, I've never done a 6-month extended backpacking trip. The longest I've backpacked for is maybe 6 weeks. So I've actually don't really have that much traveling experience. Like, I have not stayed in very many hostels or anything. So it's different for me too, because like when I go to somewhere, I go like knowing that I'm going to stay for 6 months or 1 year or whatever my time is. And so I'm much more motivated to meet people and to try to kind of get involved in my hobbies because I know I'm going to be staying for a long time. And that's one of the reasons why I prefer staying in a place for like 6 months or 1 year, because to me, that's like the perfect time to be able to develop all your hobbies, make friendships that are, you know, pretty meaningful. Whereas if you're traveling like 2 days here, 3 days there, it's quite hard to do any of that stuff.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree. I think that's too, like when we came to Canmore, we'd planned to stay like 3 months sort of thing. And then at the 3-month mark, it's like, whoa, we're kind of just starting to get comfortable, and it's small town. So it's like, you're just starting to run into people on the street and like make those connections. So it is nice to stay somewhere a little bit longer, I think. But
yeah, to like build a community instead of like when you're traveling, like continuously moving, like I think there's some like good like development stuff in that, in like, you know, you never get into a comfort zone because you're always moving and like going to a new city and like don't know where things are and don't know any people. So you've got to like put yourself out there and make new friends. But yeah, you definitely missed some of that community.
Just give me 1 quick second. Katia, ¿tú apagaste el hot? Gracias. Sorry, I was just asking her if she turned on the hot room because the receptionist is supposed to turn it on, but sometimes she forgets.
Oh, yeah, that's okay.
It's on.
Is the Spanish different in Dominican Republic from like Central America? Yeah.
I mean, it's the same language, but they have like so much slang here, and they have their own language called Dominicano, which is okay. It's Spanish, but it's like they have so much slang.
That's cool.
And they don't pronounce S.
Like at all?
Barely.
They like don't pronounce S's in Chile either. So it's like you go there and it's really hard to understand because you're like, what are you talking about? You're not using S's in anything. And they like drop the N's off of lots of things. Yeah. I felt like I didn't speak any Spanish at all when I went to Chile.
Looking back on university and then like obviously traveling afterwards, do you kind of ever think like, I wish I had gone traveling straight out of high school instead of going to university? Are you really happy with the university experience?
I'm so happy that I went to university. Like, I always kind of knew I would go to university. Like, I don't know. It was just like one of those things. It was like you finish high school and then you go to university. It was just kind of like something that was normal or expected of me, I guess. Not like I was forced to. I mean, I'm sure if I wanted to not, my parents wouldn't have, killed me or anything. But it was just like, I always knew that after high school, I would go to university.
It's like the 13th grade. Like, that's just what you do.
It's just, you just do it. You just continue. And I actually had no idea what I wanted to study in university. And I changed my major like 3 times, but always within business. And then finally I found international business, which I really liked. And I found that around the time I started doing my semesters abroad. But like all the jobs I had, except for teaching yoga now, but like all of them require a university degree. So like the people who, like some people are trying to do this like work and travel abroad without a university degree, they can do it still. Like you can be a bartender and you can work in hostels and stuff like that. But like, I think that I've had quite a good and rewarding experience because I've had things a little bit more like a little bit more skilled jobs, or like something that specifically I was interested in. Like the 3 jobs I had in Ghana, Uganda, and the Philippines were all like economic development related, which is what I studied in university, more or less. I mean, something related to business, and were very interesting. And I felt like, I somehow made a difference and was using the skills that I learned. And then for Korea, to teach English there, you have to have a university degree. So it doesn't matter. It can be in any subject in the world, but it has to be like a 4-year university degree from a real university. And the kind of like developed Asian countries all have that rule for teaching English there. If you want to teach in like, for example, Cambodia or something, I don't think they're as strict in some of the kind of lesser developed Asian countries, but the pay is also like probably a quarter or a third of what you can make in Korea.
That's interesting. Yeah, we've talked a lot about just whether or not if we'd go back in time, like would we still do university and that sort of thing. I feel like for me, I believe that like it's like everything you do kind of leads you to your next step. So
yeah,
like I'm fine that I went to university, but if you went back, would you do?
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of like the places I want to go in my life don't really require university, but like I think I was kind of like a bit of an idiot in university, and so like going through that experience led me to a position where I could kind of like break out of that mode of thinking and get into a place like a healthier place. So I'm like kind of happy with that, but like I feel like a lot of the benefits of university I got were kind of just like secondary instead of actually like I feel like you're going traveling at like 18 or something and getting out of my comfort zone and being in new places would really like have taught me a lot of things that I could have learned before I was like 22.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what has been your like favorite experience over your last few years of traveling? If you could pick just like one or two things, what's been like some highlights?
Well, definitely one of the highlights and one of the kind of turning points was my yoga teacher training in India. And that was, I'm sure, I don't know, but to me, that was like an amazing experience. Like my whole way of thinking and way of being kind of changed or developed or expanded or something. So that was really amazing. Like I learned so much at that yoga teacher training. And it also opened the doors for me to be a yoga teacher. And now I think like now with the experience I have, I've been teaching yoga for like 1 year. And now I have a lot of different styles. I can teach in 2 different languages. So I think like I could pretty much go anywhere in the world I wanted now and probably teach yoga. So that's like really an amazing thing. And just, but I mean, that experience, like the 1 month on the ashram in India was like a kind of not really life-changing, but like just, you know, another step that was really, really amazing.
Cool.
And then the other thing that really sticks out, which is really, really special and cool, is I've been doing, like I said, the highland dancing. I've been doing ever since I was 7 years old. And that's also like kind of my old passion. Like salsa is my new passion and highland dancing was my old passion. But when I was in Asia and also a little bit in Uganda, I did a lot of highland dance performances, and some of these were really cool opportunities, really, really random things, like, you know, for the British Embassy or for a Scottish whiskey like corporate event, or like I did one for the Singapore Airlines event, and just like kind of random things like that they somehow wanted a Scottish dancer for. And I was like one of the only highland dancers in Asia. And so even like I traveled to Indonesia, especially to do a highland dance performance. And sometimes I would get paid like $100 for dancing for 3 minutes or 5 minutes or something.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how did you get yourself in a position to get those opportunities?
Well, I was proactive. Like I would research beforehand, like through the British Embassy. And in most countries in Asia, in most capital cities in Asia, they have like a Scottish or British kind of cultural society or club or something. So I would just contact them before I went and introduce myself and say like give all my kind of qualifications and experience of Scottish dancing, because I did it very, very competitively. Like I went to the highest level of competition. I'm a teacher also of highland dance. Basically, like, yeah, I went all the way with this. So when I tell them all of like my experience and my qualifications, and then I say I'm coming here, and even I don't care to get paid, like I just do it for fun. For most, like my first performances in every country, I would always do for free. And then it's like people would offer to pay me. So of course I'm not going to say no. But that was, yeah, it was just like, you know, if you have one performance and then people see you, and then I would like print, sometimes I printed little business cards for myself that just had like my cell phone number and my email, and I wrote like Highland Dancer or something. And then if people saw the performance and other people were interested, then I could like hand out my cards. And I always told like the organizers, like if anyone else asks, you can share my email address with them and stuff like that. So it was just kind of like the Philippines was the most, because in the Philippines, there was also a bagpiper. Like bagpipe is the instrument that I dance with. And so he was like the self-taught Filipino who just learned to play the bagpipes by himself. And so he was like super networked, and he had tons of performances, and then he just always invited me to go with him.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So that was something like super unique, because Highland dancing, okay, salsa or for example, ballet or jazz dancing, you just know that everywhere in the world this exists. But Scottish dancing is like, you don't expect that in Korea I could be doing Scottish dancing, but I did. So to me, that's really cool. And I think also, like, for example, my dance teacher in Canada, who is still like one of my very, very, very best friends in the whole world, she's always like sharing my videos and my pictures with all of her little students. And I don't know, but I think a lot of them are like, wow, cool. Maybe when I'm 20, I can travel to Asia and Highland dance. Whereas before I would have, like when I was 7 years old, Highland dancing, I would have never thought like, wow, I could later travel to Asia and Highland dance. It was like, I could go to Scotland or that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's like so many opportunities that you don't realize are there until you kind of have them like present themselves. Yeah. Cause if you were like, oh, what's your plan? Like, oh, I'm going to the Philippines to be a Highland dancer. People are like, what? That's crazy.
That's so cool though. What a cool experience.
Yeah. But I guess we kind of let you go here. You're about to teach yoga soon, right?
Yeah. In half an hour.
Cool. That's exciting.
But I mean, I can talk 5 or 10 more minutes if you guys want to or need to, or.
I'd have like one more question. What's kind of like your relationships in Calgary with your family and friends? How has that changed over the course of 4 years, largely out of the country? Do you really like work hard at maintaining those, or are you kind of just have they drifted away?
I don't think I have any friends in Calgary anymore. Maybe you guys are my 2 newest friends in Calgary. Newest old friends. No, I have like a really, really good relationship with my family. My mom, my dad, and my sister. Specifically, my mom and my sister. And my sister and I, like, we text each other 24/7. And she's visited me in almost every country I've ever been to. She's visited me, so that's really cool because she loves traveling also. And I think she loves traveling now because of me. Like, she did her first trip when I studied abroad in the Netherlands. I was 19 and she was 16, and she went by herself to Europe to visit me when she was 16. And then basically every trip since then, she's come to visit me. So we have like a super close relationship. Like, we're always texting, and, you know, with WhatsApp, like the voice messages, this is, you know, our obsession. We're always sending each other long voice messages and stuff. And with my mom also, like, I email her maybe 3 times a week, and we Skype like once a week. So we have a good relationship. And my dad, like, I mean, he knows what's going on because my mom always tells him, but him and I don't directly talk as much, but every once in a while we do. And in terms of friends, yeah, I don't really have that many friends in Calgary anymore. Like, there's a couple people from high school or university who I still keep in touch with, meaning like we email or Facebook more like every once in a while. I have one friend who I Skype with regularly, but I don't really have that many friends in Calgary. And like, at the first couple of times when I went back to Calgary, I always made this big effort, like, oh, I have to see all my friends from high school. But it's just like, after time, I just realized that I'm so different from them. And they're all amazing and good people still. But it's just like, half of them are, well, all of them have like real jobs, corporate jobs. And, you know, they're buying their condos and their cars, and they have their mortgage payments, and they're getting married, and they're having kids.
Babies,
and
yeah,
that's good. Like, that's a normal life. And I'm so happy for them. And if they're happy, I'm happy for them. Mm-hmm. But, and I don't know, a lot of people like just do this lifestyle because they think it's the normal life, and they don't think there's any other way. But of course there is.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of weird and not normal, like what I'm doing. But yeah, because of that, like, I mean, because of Facebook, I guess basically I know what's going on with most people's lives. Equally, they know what's going on with my life. But it's not like, you know, I'm sending messages and now when I go back, well, like, for example, the last time when I went back to Calgary, it was basically like I hung out with my family. There was 1 or 2 friends who I would visit. I took a lot of yoga classes. I went to a lot of dance classes, and that's kind of it. Yeah. But I have made a lot of really good friends along the road who are like really similar lifestyle to me. Like, almost every country I've lived in, I've had a best girlfriend and a boyfriend in almost every country that I've been in. And these kind of really close friends that I've met along the way, I still keep in touch with because we're really like more similar minded. Like, they've also traveled to a lot of different places. You know, some of them have had similar jobs or similar experiences. So even though for some of them I've known only for 6 months, I feel like I could have like a lifetime friendship with them. And also they're the people who I would more likely meet again because they're also traveling. So it's like, oh yeah, next year we're just going to meet in Colombia or something like that. Whereas a friend from Calgary, that probably wouldn't happen.
Yeah, it's like you have to go home and make the effort with them before you'd be able to like see them again. I had a question. Where did it just go? I left my brain.
But yeah, we've kind of had that experience too when you go, like even like leaving for 6 months and you feel like so much changes in the way you think about things and see the world. And you come home and like, it feels like a lot of people who've just been living there, it's kind of like their views on things haven't changed. It's just been like stasis, like exactly the same. And then you like, kind of feel like just not as much to talk about anymore.
Yeah, or something different things to talk about. Like, I'm sure they have a lot to talk about their baby and their mortgage and stuff like that. But that's not that
big brother.
Complain about work. I was going to ask you, because like I struggle with this a lot. Do you find like when you do talk to those people who are kind of just like working the same job and they're like, yeah, I'm just doing this and like, you know, buying a house and we're going to have kids in a year. I find for me, I'm really like, yeah, but like, what about the rest of the world? Like, don't you want to like see the world and experience things? And I have to hold myself back from pushing people to want to experience the things I've experienced. Do you struggle with that at all with any of your, like the people you're still connected with in Calgary or at home?
Kind of. I guess, like, I don't know, the people who come to mind who I'm still connected with or friends with, they haven't necessarily traveled as much as me, but a lot of them want to actually. I'm not sure if it's because, you know, they saw me and they think, wow, that's cool, I want to do the same thing, or if they had the desire already, maybe a combination of the both. But like the couple of friends who I still keep in touch with are always saying like, oh, wow, your life is so cool, I wish I could do something like you, like give me advice, give me motivation. So I do like try to, you know, not push them, but just like tell them how great it is and like, yes, you can do it, because they have like expressed the interest that they want to.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I don't know, like, I guess I couldn't think of anyone, like no one comes to mind who is just like talking about staying in Calgary and never leaving. I don't know. I don't really talk to these people, I guess.
I guess my brother is one that comes like to mind. He's like very much just on this path of following, I guess, like the quote unquote normal life. And I'm like, well, don't you want to like see the world and have different experiences and see what there is outside of like Calgary? But it's hard for me to practice acceptance. So I was just wondering if you struggled with that as well.
Do you ever feel like get any sense of anxiety from being on kind of like an unconventional path?
No, I feel very happy and content, and like and also like I said, yoga really changed my mindset. But just like every day I'm like, wow, I'm so lucky. I'm so grateful. I'm so happy. I love what I'm doing. Like if someone gave me $10,000 tomorrow and I could do anything I wanted, I wouldn't change anything. I would keep doing exactly the same thing that I'm doing. And I realize that, and I'm grateful for that all the time. And there's probably not that many people who are in the same situation, or if they are in the same situation, maybe they didn't realize it. So I realize like I'm literally living my dream. Like especially right now, I came to this country because I wanted to. I'm doing the exact job that I want to. It's like, and I realize that, like I'm so thankful for that and so grateful for that. And what was the question again?
Oh, just about like ever feeling like anxious about being on an unconventional path. But yeah.
Yeah. So, no, like I just feel good always. And also I really just believe that everything that's meant to be will work out. Like even with a dance resort, like I really think that this is kind of like my dream, or like the thing that I really want to do. And I'm also not like stressing about this too much, but I just believe that like if it's really meant to be, which I think it is and I hope it is, then it will just work out. Like everything will fall in place in terms of like finding land and investors and business partners and stuff. And I also do really have this belief that if you like do everything with your best effort, you always have an open mind, you're always doing good things to other people, then the good things will come back to you and kind of like everything will fall into place like that.
Yeah, and you can never really know what will happen, but as long as like if you know try to start the business and then maybe some other opportunity comes up along the path and then you go in that direction. And what's the URL for your blog?
I can send it to you after in a Facebook message if you want.
Yeah,
maybe that's easier.
Yeah, and we'll put it in the show notes.
But it's not active. I write in it like once a year or something only.
Okay, we'll put it in there, and if anyone wants to find out more about the Ugandan Korean language coincidence.
Yeah, exactly. And I do update it every once in a while, but I'm not like a regular blogger, like every month or every day or something.
Yeah, that's all good.
Okay,
Cool.
great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. It's always fun. And if you have any follow-up questions or if you want to ask anything more later, just let me know.
All right, so that was the interview with Carolyn McPherson, who is currently living in the Dominican Republic. And we'll have some photos and a link to her blog as well as some other exciting links on the show notes. So visit www.theworldwanders.com for more information. Thanks for listening. Bye.